I was babysitting two young boys, a 5-year-old, and his little 3-year-old brother one quiet evening. It seemed like a perfectly normal night. We had dinner, played around the house, and before bed, we gathered around their little toy piano in the living room. I sat down with the older boy and slowly taught him to pick out the notes to Mary Had a Little Lamb. He was so proud of himself, playing it over and over, his small fingers carefully finding each key. It was one of those sweet, innocent moments you don't forget. Eventually, it was time to wind down. I tucked them into their bunk beds, climbed up to the top bunk to sit between them, and started reading bedtime stories. The room was warm, cozy, and calm. Both boys were getting sleepy, their eyes growing heavy with every page I turned. Then we heard it. From somewhere down the hall, drifting through the quiet house, the unmistakable melody of Mary Had a Little Lamb playing on that toy piano. The room went cold. Both boys slowly turned their heads and stared at me with wide, confused eyes. "Who's playing the piano?" the older one whispered. I had no answer. My heart was pounding, but I forced a calm smile and kept reading. I never left that top bunk. I stayed right there, turning pages with shaking hands, until I finally heard the front door open and their parents walk in. To this day, I've never been able to explain what happened that night. No one else was supposed to be in that house, no pets, no open windows near the piano. Nothing that could have pressed those keys in that exact sequence. That house was either haunted or someone else was in there with us. And honestly, I'm not sure which possibility scares me more. When my mom was in her 20s, she and her closest friend decided to visit a psychic one afternoon. It wasn't meant to be anything serious, just a fun, light-hearted experience. The kind of thing young women do for a laugh on a free afternoon. They walked in giggling, expecting vague predictions about love and career, maybe some mystical-sounding advice wrapped in candle smoke and mystery. What they got was something entirely different. The psychic was calm, almost unnervingly so. She looked at my mom's friend, studied her for a long, quiet moment, and then spoke words that neither of them would ever forget. She told her that very soon, she would come into more money than she had ever imagined in her life, more than her wildest dreams. But then she paused, looked her directly in the eyes, and added something chilling that this fortune would come at the highest possible price. It would cost her everything. They laughed it off, of course. Who wouldn't? It sounded dramatic, like something out of a cheap horror film. They walked out into the sunshine, joked about it on the way home, and eventually pushed it to the back of their minds. Then exactly 1 month later, the phone rang. My mom's friend had nearly died. There had been a catastrophic gas explosion at her apartment building. The blast was devastating, and the fire that followed was merciless. By the time rescuers pulled her out, she had suffered severe burns across more than 70% of her body. The recovery was long, brutal, and agonizing months of surgeries, skin grafts, and unbearable pain. There were moments when the doctors weren't sure she would survive at all, but she did survive. And when the investigation began, the truth came out. The city had known about the dangerous gas leak in that building. They had received reports, flagged the issue, and simply chose not to fix it. Their negligence had nearly killed her. As a result, she was awarded millions of dollars in a settlement. More money than she had ever imagined, at the cost of everything. My mom never laughed at psychics again after that. And honestly, after hearing this story my entire life, neither have I. Some warnings, it turns out, are delivered exactly when they need to be, whether we choose to listen or not. A couple of decades ago, life was simpler and quieter. I was working from home on an ordinary afternoon, settled into my upstairs office, focused on whatever task had kept me anchored to my desk that day. The house was still, the kind of deep, comfortable stillness that settles in when you've been alone for hours and stop noticing the silence. Then I heard the front door open downstairs. It was unmistakable, that familiar creak and click of the latch, the slight groan of the hinges I'd been meaning to oil for months. And then came the voice, a long, cheerful, drawn-out hello that echoed up through the stairwell and reached me clearly in my office. I knew instantly who it was. My older brother had this way of announcing himself that was entirely his own. It wasn't just the word, it was the tone, the rhythm, the particular music of it, the way he stretched the syllables, the warmth behind it. It was him. I was certain of it the way you're certain of something that belongs only to one person in the world. That greeting was his signature, as recognizable as his face. I was surprised, of course. He lived 4 hours away and hadn't mentioned any plans to visit. But I was genuinely pleased. I smiled to myself, called down that I'd be there in just a second, and quickly saved my work on the computer. I didn't rush, because there was no reason to. He was here, settled in downstairs, and we had all afternoon. I came down the stairs expecting to find him in the living room, maybe already raiding the kitchen, the way he always did. The house was empty. I checked every room, the kitchen, the living room, the hallway. Nothing. I told myself he must have stepped outside to grab something from his car. I went to the front door, opened it, and looked out. No car in the driveway, no brother on the porch, no footsteps disappearing down the street, just the quiet neighborhood completely undisturbed, as if no one had arrived at all. I stood there for a long moment, a cold feeling creeping slowly up my spine. I called my brother that evening. He had been home all day, 4 hours away, and hadn't gone anywhere. To this day, I have no explanation. The voice I heard wasn't a sound that could be mistaken or imagined. It was him, his tone, his warmth, his exact and unmistakable way of walking into a room and making himself known. Whatever came through that door that afternoon, it knew exactly how to sound like someone I loved, and somehow that makes it so much worse.